It's been a few years since AI showed up and rearranged everyone's furniture. We're past the and into the part where instructors are looking around going, okay, so now what? Today we're talking about what instructors are seeing other instructors do with AI, the good, the bad, and the stuff worth stealing. Welcome to the What and Who of EDU. Whether you're looking to boost student confidence, build belonging, navigate new teaching challenges, or figure out where AI fits in, we're here with clear, actionable ideas that you can use right away. I'm your host, Marissa Bluestone, and today we're talking about AI. Because things are not always working as planned, and what worked 2 years ago, well, now it folds like a cheap lawn chair. Let's get into it. Tip 1. Stop pretending it's not there. Ignoring AI does not make it go away. Here's a strategy that isn't working. Pretending AI doesn't exist and hoping the students just don't use it. Spoiler alert, they will. Dr. Ryan Herzog, Associate Professor of Economics at Gonzaga University and co-author of Macmillan Learning's Economics, has seen what happens when students encounter AI without any guidance. They don't put it down. They use it like a magic 8 ball. Shake it, get an answer, and then move on.
I think AI is the tool we're all still learning the best way of integrating it into our classrooms. I think in terms of the good, the bad, the ugly with AI, I think the bad is not acknowledging it exists and not finding ways to utilize it or for your students to utilize it in your classroom. And there are still instructors that don't want to acknowledge that's out there. And students inevitably are going to be using AI, and it points them into the direction of using AI just to answer a problem. So the good instructors or the instructors that are doing a good job with AI are getting students to use AI to help them learn a process of interacting with AI to help identify a problem, to help come to potential solutions for that problem, right? The big word that we're using more and more is the word curious. We need students to be curious about the problems, and AI is a tool to help them kind of center their thoughts, center their thinking so they can use the skills we're giving them to answer problems.
The word he keeps landing on is curious, not compliant, curious. That doesn't happen because you looked the other way. So AI is in the room, but now what? Because acknowledging it exists and actually knowing what to do with it are two very different things. Tip 2. Bring it into the open. AI has a bit of a reputation problem. Everyone pictures it in the season finale, swooping in to write the paper while the student just makes a snack. But Dr. Kristen Monroe suggests second season energy instead. Less big twist, more character development.
I am very encouraged with the direction that AI is going in education. I think that in the beginning, it was scary, and it is still scary, but I've seen a lot of people come around to it in really positive ways, specifically folks that teach writing, and they're seeing the value of using AI as a scaffolding tool and as a co-creator rather than a replacement for thinking. And thinking about the process of writing, not as much as the product of the writing. I have many students that are actually AI skeptics. They don't want to use AI. They don't want to become overly reliant on it. They have ethical concerns about the environment and the different things that have an impact on that. And I think it's important to always have people that are playing devil's advocate when it comes to AI and to go look at it from a do no harm lens. But I also think that we need to think about ways of incorporating AI into education and show our students how to use the tool, because the worst thing that can happen is they go out into the workforce and they're completely unprepared when they're asked or expected to use AI as a tool. And yeah, so not all students are using AI, just for the record.
That may be the real teaching opportunity here. Not convincing students that AI is good or scaring them into thinking it's bad, but helping them to build a judgment to decide when it helps, when it harms, and when the better move is to do the thinking themselves. Tip 3. Don't make AI a secret. Silence doesn't stop AI, it just makes it a bit shady. Some instructors treat AI like Fight Club, and we all know what the first rule of that is. Don't talk about it. Jennifer Duncan, Associate Professor of English at Georgia State University's Perimeter College, says that's exactly the problem.
So some of the most exciting things that I'm seeing happen with AI are when instructors are approaching it with their students. Like they're talking about it as a way of exposing learning together and working through it and kind of almost co-creating assignments and courses with their students. I think that what that does is that helps the students understand and humanize the course concepts, but I think it also helps to humanize us as instructors, because it helps to show that we're learning too, which is what we're supposedly trying to help our students do. The most unsuccessful philosophy, I think, is just the ban it all philosophy. And I understand where those people are coming from. I understand what they're trying to do, but I feel like it's going to create an atmosphere of dishonesty, with an atmosphere like this clandestine learning that's happening where some students are doing things, but they don't want to talk about them, but they now have a secret superpower that other students don't. And the instructor is like willing themselves to pretend that none of this is going on. So I think the more out in the open we get the conversations with our students, even when it means showing our own vulnerability, the more productive the learning experience will be.
The data backs her up. In Titan's Time for Class 2026 report, the faculty at institutions that banned AI entirely were the least likely to say their policy was effective. So the ban it all approach may feel clean on paper, but in practice, it can push the learning deep underground. So if pretending AI does not exist is one trap, and banning it into the shadows is another, then what's left? Tip 4. Pick a lane, just not one of the extreme ones. Some people see AI as a magic TA. Others see it as the opening scene of a Black Mirror episode. Betsy Langness, psychology department head at Jefferson Community and Technical College, doesn't buy either narrative.
Well, a lot of instructors are really mixed about AI. Some of them think that it's going to take our jobs away. Some of them totally want to ban AI. And some faculty are playing ignorance is bliss and not having any rules whatsoever. But really, there needs to be a happy medium in there, because instructors that are open about this and talking about AI and setting some clear expectations are really helping students figure out how to be successful with the tool. And for psychology, I'll tell you, this is a great opportunity because AI can open doors to conversations about ethics, about critical thinking, about self-awareness. And it really isn't whether AI is good or bad, because I think it's here to stay, but it's how we are using it and how can we use it intentionally to support student learning.
Not good, not bad, simply here. That's the starting point. Everything else is a conversation worth having. Once AI is part of the conversation, the next question is what we use it for. Is it there to catch students or to teach them? Tip 5. Don't waste the teachable moment. Here's a plot twist. The worst use of AI in education might not be the students using it to cheat. It might be the instructors using it only to catch them. Dr. Sarah Lehman, professor of biology and STEM outreach coordinator at the University of Mount Olive, says the minute AI becomes a gotcha machine, you've missed the actual opportunity that's sitting right in front of you.
So I think, especially in science, um, a lot of instructors try to use AI as a creative platform or as more of a teaching tool. So I have colleagues that have used it for brainstorming or revision or refining ideas, experimental processes, kind of generating data set. And that is something that we worked on collaboratively to kind of bring AI as like a functional tool or using the powers for good and a creative, constructive process. But on the flip side, I think just outright banning AI without having a conversation about the capabilities of AI, just missing that teachable moment of you could have used it for this, or encouraging students to use more direct prompts or the prompts that would use it for more creativity. So I also think that using it as like a policing tool, like with some of the software that detects unoriginal content, right? Missing that conversation or just not really explaining to students what they have done with that is missing a huge power of AI. In all honesty, I don't even think sometimes students realize they're using AI, like with the Microsoft Copilot and the tools that are available on their phone, and they're getting flagged for unoriginal content just by clicking on things that the prompts that pop up. It says, do you want to make your paper sound more academic? Well, of course they're going to want to make their paper sound more academic, but now it's going to be flagged as unoriginal content and AI generated. And I think that it's a huge, huge miss for them.
Titan found faculty concerns about student cheating have climbed from 36% in 2024 to 55% in 2026. But if we treat cheating as the whole diagnosis, we miss the bigger story, because sometimes cheating is the symptom, but disengagement is the diagnosis. The gotcha approach wastes everyone's time, but so does going it alone, which brings us to the people who figured out that there's a better way. Tip 6. Swap strategies, not just opinions. While some instructors are still debating AI, others are already swapping strategies like recipes. Dr. Starr Sinclair, the assistant professor of psychology at Florida Gulf Coast University, brings something this conversation desperately needs: community. Just picture it: instructors sharing what's actually working across departments without needing to become a tech influencer by Friday.
To me, there's so much good happening in what instructors can do. I mean, obviously, I think the balance that needs to be struck is with people either being over-reliant on AI or programming or whatever, and being able to use it as an effective tool, and also to train our students how to use it in effective and ethical ways. But we are also, as even in my institution, wrestling with this and what does that look like, but also providing space for people to bring, right? We actually have a teaching pedagogy, like internal conference that's happening next week, where we're going to have people presenting different ways that they're using AI tools to help make them more efficient in their work as professors, but also how are they using it to make the inquiry process for students that much more better and deeper, and getting students to basically challenge them, right, in their critical thinking while they are using these tools. And so to me, that's all exciting stuff.
Because in education, AI is not a solo sport. It's something that faculty figure out together. I'll let Dr. Sinclair explain.
I'm grateful too, because they are curating these opportunities especially for, for people who may be hesitant or just maybe they want to get started, but they don't know how to. So having, this type of programming available to us to start to engage and also to start to connect with colleagues that we may not necessarily have relationships with already because they're in a different department or even in a different college. But we now know, oh, I can go to you and ask questions about parent or whatever, platform. I think that's a great way to, again, to build community. Community is the answer for everything.
Community is the answer to everything. She said it, and we are keeping it. Tip 7. Use it, don't worship it. Remember when the graphing calculator showed up and math teachers everywhere lost their minds? Cheating, shortcuts, the end of real thinking. And now we just use calculators. And nobody's writing a big think piece about it. Well, Dr. Dan Look, professor of mathematics at St. Lawrence University, believes that AI is not so different.
So I'd like to start with focus on the good, because I think myself, like a lot of others, immediately started on the shut it down train when, AI showed up, and how do we stop students from using this? And I think that you're not going to put that genie back in the bottle. It's here. It's, reminds me of the calculator wars of the 90s for mathematics when, like, what do we do now that graphing calculators are out? Now we don't think twice about graphing calculators. We've just integrated them into the system. And I think that's what I want to see happen with AI. Actually, I'm teaching a course right now that I just designed last semester, and that was designed with AI. I bounced ideas off it. I'm an expert in the field. I know when it's giving me stuff that doesn't make sense, but I also know when it's giving me really good ideas I wouldn't have thought of. And so I want the students to use it that way as well. Brainstorm for your projects. If you see a problem on the homework you're not sure how to do, with the correct prompt, you can get basically a tutor to help you out. It may not be perfect, but if you're putting in the work and asking the right questions, I think that is a use I would love to see. One where we're leveraging its ability to help students be a bit more autodidactic or get that assistance when I'm not available. You could almost flip the class using AI, right? Without making all the videos. I think that's an ambitious statement, but I don't think it's unreasonable.
Let AI help students get unstuck, brainstorm, or ask a better next question. Just don't confuse the fast help with real judgment. Okay, if we can admit that AI is useful, the next few questions get a lot harder. If students can use it to brainstorm, to practice, to draft, to revise, and even sometimes bypass the hard part, what exactly are we assessing? Tip 8. Ask the question underneath everything. Dr. Erica Martinez, professor of instruction at the University of South Florida, is onto something. She believes that before we redesign another assignment, we need to ask an important question, one that many of us are dancing around. In an age where smart glasses might whisper the answer into a student's ear during the final exam, what does a grade even mean now?
We're years into AI now, and it's still just as much a topic of conversation that it's been in the first semester. I think in general, instructors are becoming more comfortable with using it in their classrooms, using it for themselves. I think the best ways that I see people using it to save time are with building assignments. You have an idea, but you haven't fleshed out all the details of the instructions and the rubric. And I think those are some of the best ways to use AI in terms of prepping for your course. Some instructors are really using it with students on assignments to help build and brainstorm and work on problems for class. Assessment in the age of AI is scary. So there are two roles of an instructor of the institution itself, right? We want to increase human capital. Students need to come to us to learn, right? That's one big objective of our classrooms. They leave with more knowledge than they started with. But the other thing is that we as instructors have to certify that our students are proficient. And that degree has to signal to the market that these students are capable. And AI throws a wrench in the latter of those two, a big wrench in our ability to ensure that that A means that students grasp 90% of this material. And that's the part that we really struggle with, that this degree is signaling to the marketplace that our students have value. The answer to this question a couple years ago was move more assessments in the classroom. But this year, I've heard a couple colleagues talking about students either using or discussing using these smart glasses to take exams. So what do you do when that technology in 3 or 4 years becomes so good that it's able to read the exam and whisper the answer into their ear or display it on the eyeglass screen? How do we handle that?
So how do we know if what we're measuring is what's setting the students up for success? Dr. Martinez had such an amazing insight earlier that we absolutely needed to hear from her again. So a bingo bonus. Don't remove the struggle without replacing the skill.
When I was growing up, we had a dictionary in the house. What AI has forced me to do is think about what else do students, my children, lose when I've removed this dictionary. They know how to type it into Google. They can ask Alexa, so they don't need to look up words anymore. But what came with that? They learned search, they learned procedures, and how to self-correct, right? The answer is there. So if you don't find the word, it's because you did something wrong. The dictionary is not wrong. So all of these skills that come with just looking up a word in the dictionary, that when I remove the dictionary, am I supplementing it with something else? And AI for me is the same thing. If we're allowing this technology, what skills are students not getting? And are we making sure that we are adding some other type of activity that allows them to have access to those same skills?
The dictionary didn't just have words in it. It had a process: search, then self-correct, then try again. When you take the tool away, you don't automatically replace what came with it. Tip 9, keep the hard part actually hard. AI can generate 100 quiz questions in about 45 seconds. Now, that sounds great, but Dr. Jennifer Ripley-Stickle, teaching professor and non-majors biology program director at West Virginia University, has watched it become a problem.
What I see instructors using AI for, it's one thing that I think is good and bad. It's creating quizzes or test questions. So it is a huge time saver to instantly create these large test banks using AI. So that is great. However, what I'm seeing is that these higher order analysis, application, evaluation skills are slipping out of the curriculum. New instructors don't even recognize this hole that they are creating. They just see it as that they have accomplished this great pool of questions. And the pool of questions is fantastic because you can decrease plagiarism by having a pool of questions that focus on a learning objective. And so students get a different question. But if these questions are all knowledge-based and not those analysis, evaluation types of questions, you're losing those skills from the curriculum. I think AI doesn't have the programming yet to really do a good job with analysis, case study, evaluation type questions. It just hasn't gotten there yet. I know as an instructor, those are the toughest questions to write myself. And they take tweaking semester after semester. They are hard questions to grade. But that's the important, I mean, those are the skills you're supposed to be gaining in college, right? You learn knowledge, but you have to know its use and its application as well.
If the questions are all at the same kind of knowledge level, they're all easy to grade and easy to generate, they may just be leaving analysis and evaluation on the cutting room floor. The hard questions to write are usually the most important ones. That hasn't changed, and you are not the Costco of assessment. Tip 10. Redesign the assignment. AI is the enemy of lazy assessment design. There's a moment every instructor has had recently. You look at the assignment that used to work and realize it doesn't work anymore. Dr. Kendra Thomas, Associate Professor of Psychology at Hope College, has been living that shift in real time.
Yeah, so my answer for this has changed as AI has gotten better, right? And so what I realized, like, oh, this works for the final in 2022. Like I had to, it came out in November. And so let's revamp the final. And so it feels more like an authentic assessment. And what I understand now, that wouldn't have been a good strategy. One way that I think AI enhances my teaching is it's pushing me to be more creative. And it's pushing me to find things, because the things that worked that I like, I'm going to keep this. And I'll, every now and again, you find a good strategy that you keep for 5 years. Like, oh, this assessment works and is good. And then all of a sudden that assessment's not great anymore. And so it's pushed me to quickly scramble and find something that gets at what I want them to get at. And so in that sense, I think AI has kept me creative and on my toes, but really understanding how students are using it and how it could be useful is important to understand, like the boundaries or guidelines. Here's a specific example. I had a class of under 20 students, and this would only work if you have a small class, right? And so I teach at a small liberal arts college. This would not work in a, over 100 student lecture. But I wanted them to write an op-ed piece on the topic of our class, which was global child flourishing, translating the academic articles that we've been reading into a newsy piece. So it could have a news hook. It's about 1,000 words. And so I worked with them on the pitch, like they had to have like here's my idea, and then generate an outline, and then put some of the sources that they had read from the class into the outline, incorporate that into an annotated outline, and then see a draft of it. And then I gave feedback in draft 2, and then I gave feedback in draft 3. And the fact that I saw it being built made me think that, okay, if they're using AI for editing or brainstorming, then it's still an authentic assessment because I saw every step of it. And so I felt like I could be hands off with how they're using AI because I saw it grow up. I was a part of it. I saw their ideas there. It's something I've used in a larger class is like having a short answer essay in a question in an exam, telling them what it is ahead of time and saying that they have to reference specific lecture slides and specific examples spent in class and the book. And so then they know about it ahead of time. So it lowers their anxiety. They know how to prepare. And they have to show me where this information came from. And some students are feeding all of the lecture slides into AI and feeding the book into, like, there are programs where AI could still be used for that. But it's a slower process that requires more cognitive engagement, and they have to retain it in their brains and organize it long enough to be able to put it on an essay.
AI didn't kill good assignments. It just exposed the ones being held together with pedagogical duct tape. 10 instructors, 10 different classrooms, and somehow they all keep circling the same thing, which is that AI is not the problem, it's the pressure test. It's testing our policies, our assessments, our assumptions about what students know, what they can do, and what a grade is actually supposed to prove. And the strongest responses are not built on denial, panic, or vibes. So talk about AI tools. Stop assuming every student uses it the same way. Set boundaries instead of bans, and protect that higher order thinking. And if you need to redesign the assignment so that the process actually shows up, you're in good company. If you do one thing tomorrow, pick an assignment, just one, and ask yourself, would this still work if a student had AI the whole time? If yes, great. If not, well, then there's your starting point. If this episode gave you something to scribble in the margins of next semester syllabus, send it to a colleague, text it, email, or carry or pigeon it over during office hours. And while you're at it, follow the show and leave a quick rating. It helps more educators find conversations just like this one. I'm Marissa Bluestone, and this is the What and Who of EDU. We'll see you back after summer break starting in August.